Alright, so we're starting this, October turn. I rolled the weather, and it ends up severe weather. And decided, hey, I better look up and see what severe weather does. And again, I'm running into the same problem that this very parsimonious style of rules writing runs you into. Which is, if you follow everything in the order that the designer wants you to follow things in, it's very easy. If you approach the rules, the game, and everything from that exact correct frame of mind, I'm sure you can find everything. For example, here, though, I see that, so weather has a direct effect over here on the combat chart somewhere. Fair and poor weather give you air support effects. No effect for severe weather. During assaults, well, there's an effect to that as well. And it's all clarified in various places, but I'm unable to find a summary of weather effects. Okay? Now, to me, I'm used to this kind of cross-referencing in my rules. It's how you sync something in easier. And I have to say, I had the same kind of problem with Axis Empires. I'm not saying that everything should be written everywhere, but there should at least be a numerical reference to get you to the right rule with, maybe a line. So I look in the weather segment, which is obviously not the correct place to find out about every weather aspect, but it's the only rule on weather specifically that even has a number. And, well, it doesn't tell you what weather does. And I look into the air segment, and honestly, I'm having a tough time here too. So for example, air movement doesn't have any restrictions, and that's fine. I could see moving, but now I start looking down under air combat. That doesn't have a rule. Air strike. That doesn't have a statement that I can or can't do that. Now, of course, the air combat rules don't indicate, they indicate a penalty for poor weather, but nothing for severe. Is severe disallowed or not? I don't know that. And then I look further at, air support. And there again, no effect. Now, part of my head says there's probably something that says air units can't do anything in severe weather. But I don't know where to find it. And the fact that there's nothing that says the opposite is just as disturbing. So, one way or another, I should be able to look through this rule book and find what I want, which is, does severe weather have an effect on the air units? I don't find it. And again, this is the one thing that I really hold as my biggest gripe so far on this, is the rules. Anyway, I'm going to assume severe weather has no effect because I can find nothing in the charts and my skimming of the rule tells me nothing. So I'm assuming air units work fine in severe weather but not well in poor weather. There might be an argument for that. Severe weather may be so cold that it doesn't affect that, but it seems to me, let's see where we have this. Well, let's see. Attacking a unit in poor weather is a -2. Severe weather divides your modified roll in half. Which is kind of a weird effect that we'll see how that works, because that's going to probably, move a value, say a 6-6, down to a 3-3, which looks about the same. It may have some overall effects, but it doesn't really favor one side or the other, I think, unlike the poor weather. That would make sense because the winter, it doesn't slow down your attack as much. Why it would cause perhaps less losses, I don't know. Although it looks like bigger rolls cause less of a extreme result, so it may actually cause more extreme results from the combat table, which would work for me. But I am disturbed. Let's see. Maybe after the roll? Yay! Here's one effect. The severe weather here. But again, I'm not used to this kind of thing. I'm used to being able to find the rules when I look for them, at least a hint of those rules, somewhere where I'm looking for them. Not have to figure out the exact place that the designer wanted me to look. Anyway, enough of that rant. We're going to move on. I've already collected the production points. We're going to move on to the Axis turn. And I don't think that there's a lot that the Axis can really do here. But we'll see how they pay out. Okay, so the Germans caught a break in this weather. They didn't roll terribly well, but they made this assault again, and they got a DR result. There's no option to avoid a retreat in this game. The defender must retreat if they can, so they pull out of Rostov, and the German, with support from these Italian and Romanian troops, has taken the city. And I should use one of these little markers here, so I keep track of all the different cities there. So that was kind of a success. I didn't have to use my air power. I think I'm going to have to pull my Romanian up to help hold the line. You can see I pulled my Hungarian back. I should be, yeah, that I still have one Romanian point left. And now I can kind of try to decide, can I make an attack across here? I'd like to try to cut him apart, but there isn't a lot more that I can do right now. Well, I'm going to leave it alone, but that was kind of a mistake in some ways. The Russians almost certainly would have committed something there. The Germans also probably would have committed their air power. I'm not sure whether the Russians would have committed their tanks or the air power. Tanks are less valuable in the severe weather here, I think. Let's see. Well, no. Tanks do nothing in severe weather, it looks like. That would be my guess, because it's fair and poor weather. So that wouldn't have been an option. The only option would be the air units. Oh well. No, I'm kind of mistaken here. The air support, you can fly it, I guess, but it doesn't do anything, so there's no reason to. So, we're going to conduct a mobile attack on this tank while it's weak, and neither side is committing anything. So, we're going to have a net of +2 for the German unit, but it drops down to +1. Maybe with the halving, this will work out well for us. Well, it's more expensive to conduct the attacks in terms of movement points, so the Germans were only able to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 2 attacks in here. They managed to reduce the strength by 1, and their total cost is kind of going down. They want to keep at least the 3 points to reduce the sorties. Of course, they're being outproduced in planes by the Russians no matter what it looks like. So I'm making mistakes left and right here. The cost for attacking in severe or poor conditions. No, I counted that in, right? Yeah. I thought it was one more for severe even. Anyway, I made an attack here, and I've got a few movement points left, so I made another one here, and now I'm down to the last 3 movement points. Not enough to attack in here, not enough, well, enough to attack here, but there's not much I could do. I could just push the Russians back, and I'm not sure I see any advantage to that, to tell you the truth. So I think I'm just going to call it for this German unit. Now I've got 1 more point I could spend in the German points, but there's nothing I can really move. I took these 2. If I had set up an assault here with the points, and I think I could have, It would have been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. No, not quite. So, yeah, I don't think there's many other options. I'm going to just burn a point, using the other points to rebuild my sorties up for whatever that's worth. And we'll move on to the Russian side because the German supplies still all look like they're tracing up this way at least. Anywhere else is kind of tricky. Remembering that the Russians only really have to play defense. They did launch an assault here, but that's all they're doing. Just the one attack, because that gives them 10 points. 6 for the 2 air increases, and then 4 more to build up at least one of their big armored units here. They maybe shouldn't have even spent those 2 and kept the others to replenish this poor unit, who, I think I forgot, in exchange, I think there was an error that I made in the Russians' favor as well, but I think I may have forgotten the penalty for for a reduced unit, maybe, on those secondary attacks. Very likely. It's hard for me, and you know, I'm told, well, don't say you have to remember these modifiers because they're on the chart, but the truth of the matter is, I don't like looking at a chart or the rules or whatever every time I want to find something. And it's hard for me to keep all these modifiers in mind, which is why I phrase it that way. Because I do like to do all this kind of addition and remembering in my head. Again, a personal issue. I don't tend to follow through the rule books, follow through flow charts and everything just to play the game. And, well, on one side it means, hey, I'm going to make some mistakes, which is okay, I think, except that this is a highly competitive game where maybe you need to be looking at these charts every time. Anyway, we're going to produce. Our supply is good with the Russians, so now we go to the upgrade and mobilization. We're not going to have a victory, obviously. I'll spend the points for replacements. The Germans, it's quite easy. All they're spending is, this was a -4, it goes to a -2. And the Russians are going to drop 2 of these to -2s, thereby giving them really the air advantage still. And then, let's see, that was 6, they have 4 left. They can rebuild a tank, which is, I think, the better choice. And they've got to kind of put that in Stalingrad just to defend it. Next turn they're going to get less production because of the loss of Rostov, which is kind of painful. And at this point we essentially go to the movement phase. Nobody's got any eliminated units. And the Axis gets one of their support markers. And I think all these go in the mobilization box. I've got to look. This is the shock army that I'm missing. Let's see on the back here. Yeah, that goes into the mobilization pool. And these are, what's this? 3rd Guard. That's going to be an upgrade next turn. And then the artillery goes in the events box. And what does the artillery do? Says me. And we'll look around to try to find where that happens. I'm pretty sure it actually tells me in the rules. And that's easier than trying to find it on all those charts what it's good for. And I'm glad it's actually in the rules. If it is, that's going to give a 2-point combat die roll modifier in any combat, but it does, like the Axis support, get jumped ahead that many turns. Now let's see if that's in here. It should be. Air support, event marker. Yeah, there it is. Alright. Well, I'm going to load this one up. And we'll just keep pushing through.